You're listening to Glow On with Charla Story
and Jennifer Wilson. We're not just photographers. We're your trusty guides in the world of photography, business, and a bit of life wisdom. Every week, we'll be lighting up your feed with practical tips, inspiring stories, and a sprinkle of humor just to keep you smiling.
We've captured luxurious weddings, mentored talented students at Develop Academy, and navigated the ups and downs of the photography world to bring you insights and strategies that work. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, boost your business, or just hang out with two friends who get it, you're in the right place.
So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy,
and let's dive into another episode of Glow On.
Well, hi guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here with us. One of my favorite things about you, and I'm sure you just heard, is that I feel like, have pushed through a lot of barriers that make it so much more complicated for somebody who's like in a New York or in an LA and just has an abundance, if you will, of these opportunities. And so I would love for you to start out chatting a little bit about who you are and kind of how you got started and what makes you and your business stand out.
Yeah. Well, I'm Kate Turner. I'm the founder and creative director of Kate & Company. We are a St. Louis-based, exclusively full-service wedding planning and design firm. About 60% of what we do is local to the Midwest. We're based in St. Louis, Missouri. But about 40% of what we do is national. And last year we had our first our first European wedding. We've done a lot south of the border. We've worked in every major marketplace from Napa Valley to Charleston to Dallas and Chicago and almost every in between. But we call the Midwest home, and we are very, very passionate about supporting our community at home. I think that people not so lovingly refer to us as living in a flyover state, and we love the Midwest. We think there are event planners, designers, photographers that come from smaller and mid-sized marketplaces that maybe just aren't getting the recognition everyone else is getting because they don't live in LA or they don't live in New York. And so we're really passionate about supporting those communities and how we can help them, get to the next level. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
That's so impressive and so beautiful that you can be so inspirational, but be bringing people along with you.
I hope so. I mean, I think I'm really excited to be connecting with your group today, just because, and I'm not just saying this because of where we are, but to us, our photographers are our number one vendor. After we find a date and a venue, it's the first vendor that we book. Because I think I spent almost the first half of my career really making the same mistakes a lot of planners do, where they are directing the dollars to the big decor pieces. Yeah. And then you have nothing to show of it if you don't have a really high quality partner in your photographer or in a videographer too. So I think we really flipped that on its head about 5 years ago and started really prioritizing our photographers as, a really high dollar amount of our budget. And so the more I can do to support the photographers at the end of the day, I mean, it is self-serving because they make me look good. If the client is happy with their photos and I get great quality room shots and detail shots, we all win, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. I really feel like it is painful for us when we have a planner who's not into design or doesn't necessarily get it or care, because sometimes we're hired and we're a part of a collaborative team, like when we work with you or other full service planners. But sometimes we show up and like there's nobody there when it's time to shoot the room, and catering came and screwed up all the chairs and the flatware, and you have to spend 80% of your time fixing it before you can photograph it. And you're like, man, if only there were 4 or 5 of us doing this, now I don't have a lot of time. And so having that like relationship with each other to be able to make sure we're both getting the best is literally everything. So I agree.
I think it's hugely important. I mean, nothing can ruin a table quite like a butter pads on it or a sweaty water glass, right? But really it took that partnership of a photographer saying like, hey, I can't submit this for editorial if this is here. And I was like, no, I didn't know that, but thank you for telling me. And now that's a new standard.
Yeah.
Right.
The same thing. It's one wedding of seeing, linens that had terrible fold lines in it and then being like, okay, now this is a new standard. There's nobody out there teaching any of us what the standard should be. And so everybody does it a little bit differently. And that's okay. But for us, we really feel like valuing our photographers first and foremost is hugely important, because at the end of the day, the flowers are gone and the linens are gone, and what you have left is the memories you're going to share with your children. And so I think a lot of planners make that mistake in not valuing that at the forefront.
Preach. That's definitely that's a huge part of how we tell ourselves.
To the choir, right? Yeah.
Yeah, not having a planner or stylist who's on your team is one of the most discouraging things as a photographer, especially whenever you're showing up to be excellent and represent their business. Yeah. So having a team player at the forefront of an event is honestly one of the most valued things we ever encounter, because we're like, yes, they understand.
You care as much as I do. Exactly. I care a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just said something. You said there's not really anybody out there teaching us what the standard is.
Yeah.
But I actually think that you're kind of out there teaching the standard. And you just had 2 weeks ago or something that you put on. And that was probably one of the things that you went over, was talking about the things that you've learned over time that should be the standard of a quality event. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was my first opportunity to wade into the education world with a conference we call Landlocked Luxury, and really to support that community we were talking about a lot at the forefront. But what we did, we spent a lot of times talking with photographers about what we expect to see from those who are trying to get out of the mid-size, I hate the word lovely, so the mid-size weddings into the luxury weddings, and then hopefully ultra luxury weddings. What do we want to see as event planners? How to get in front of event planners, because they're notoriously terrible to get in front of.
Yeah.
And then we're the worst. And then
So are we.
Also with planners, things that should be a standard amongst all of us in how we write our timelines, how we approach collaborating with photographers, with our florists, with our paper partners. And so I'm hoping that this is something that we can expand over time to sort of set what that standard is going to look like.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I think a couple of our girls, or at least one of them, said that they were there.
Yes.
That it was great.
Yes.
Oh, yay.
We
I was hoping she would be here.
We did know that we were going to have at least one that was there, and so that was exciting.
We talked yesterday. I was like, please go easy on me with questions today. I'm a little nervous.
I love that. We also have courses that we've put together for the standard of photography in terms of details, in the hopes that planners are getting what they're looking for, because obviously, much like you, our clients on a wedding day are far more than the bride. It far exceeds just the bride. We have you, we have the bride, we have the florist, we have the makeup artist, and everybody needs certain things from us. And of course, when we have high standards, we want to deliver the best we possibly can. But if it's not that working relationship, then it's that much harder to be able to deliver the highest standard possible if we're not truly collaborating. But you said earlier, like, how to connect with planners. And that's really what most of our photography students are going to want to talk about. So the questions are always like, how can I meet a planner and make an impact and build a relationship that does eventually turn into work? What would you say?
You guys, this is a hard question, because I don't think that there's one right answer. Because like I said, we suck. When you're in the luxury world, so with my business, I took a step back this year to really focus on education. So next year, I'm only doing maybe 4 to 6 weddings. Eli on my team is maybe doing around 8. And if I meet a new photographer today, it's probably 2025 before I really am looking to refer them business. So you have to play the long game.
Yes.
It's not as easy as, can I get a cup of coffee with you today and expect referrals tomorrow? And I think oftentimes across the industry, not just photographers, that's how people expect it to be.
Yeah.
And so I do think hotels call this like a surprise and delight. I think something that where you see a planner that you really want to get in front of and they're struggling with something, popping in their inbox with a little gift card for a Starbucks just to say, like, I'm thinking of you. You know, someone did this to me. I saw your son didn't sleep last night, which is basically all I talk about on social media right now. Here's a little Starbucks gift card. That person has continuously stayed in front of me in terms of commenting on social media, sending me like a link to something they thought I would like, or they were inspired by another planner and forwarded me a photo and was like, I think you would totally kill this, you know, vibe. I'd love to work with you on that. Or so just like things like that. It's not, to me, like, I think where people fall flat is they invest in these really high dollar amount gifts that they send out. And I think your money is much better used in other ways. It's just the constant staying in front, because I'll be honest, I had a photographer I had an opportunity to work with, and I wouldn't say it was a total vibe match when we met, but she was so great at staying in front of me that I said to my team, I was like, we owe her a referral because she has really put in the work, and we made a connection and the wedding went incredible. And it was just that first match wasn't perfect, but she stayed in front of me. I felt obligated a little bit, but I think it's the long game. You have to just pay that long game. And most planners these days are getting most of their referrals on social media. That's their marketing. That is where they're interacting with people. You know, I think I met you guys at a conference, and then it was Charlotte, I think I sent you 3 or 4 referrals before we had the first opportunity to work together. And what I loved about what you did, and I would encourage this from a lot of photographers, is you never made me feel bad if it wasn't a good match or like it was a waste of your time. Yeah. And I have been in the opposite situation where I really wanted to work with a photographer. They didn't have the budget to support that photographer and was sort of made to feel like it was a waste of my time. And you never made me feel that way. And I think that's really important, because in the Midwest, in St. Louis, Missouri, I don't have a lot of clients who want to drop $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to fly, you know, people in from LA and New York and things like that. But we have really high quality photographers right here. And so I think just being able to not feel scared as a planner in a smaller marketplace to reach out to some of the bigger names in the industry is important as well.
I'm so sorry you were met with someone who was unkind and made you feel like that was a waste.
That's okay.
Yeah, that sucks. A little shocking, if I'm being honest.
No. Well, you know, it's so funny because Instagram is like a highlight reel, right? And so you see, I think this is true for photographers, for planners, for floral designers. It's not exclusive to photographers, but you see all these big names working with each other, and then you get the opportunity to finally work with a person that you've been dying to work with, and then for it to fall flat kind of stinks. I had a photographer I worked with that was one of the bigger names in the industry, and I think I maybe got a gallery of 15 images after the wedding. It's like one of the place setting, one of the venue, and they were really behind all day. And so to me, you know, and we can kind of pivot in that direction a little bit as well, is I know that their obligation is the couple. I totally get that. But what we're looking for when we're referring people out is, can you manage both the couple and the details and the room shots and things like that? And that's really important to us to be able to have those, because like I said, that's all I have left.
Yeah. You leaned right into obviously what questions we'd be asking, which is like, if somebody's messaging you on social and you go to check them out like a library book, what's going to make you attracted to their work?
I want to see a full gallery. In fact, I'd love to see 3, and I don't want it to be a highlight reel of your best cocktail hour mixed with your best. I want to see a full gallery of one singular wedding, because anybody can take their best cocktail hour photos and their best reception photos and piecemeal it together. But I want to know that I'm not going to end up with only black and white photos of the reception, or I'm going to have detail shots and couple shots, and that somebody can manage the foreground and the background, or whatever that is actually called, right? Like, so somebody who knows I think anybody who's probably taking your class are really talented photographers. So to me, it's not going to as much be about the talent, but about the small details. So if they're shooting a cake cutting, for example, what's in the background? Is it a bunch of band equipment? Or if they're shooting a lay flat or a flat lay. Lay flat is an album, right? Flat lay is a thing, right?
Does anyone know?
I think it's
I don't know. I get it wrong every time.
It's okay.
But how does that look? Are there shoes in with the invitation? Like,
Thank you.
I better get them when I'm invited to your wedding. That better be a gift.
Are you sending me?
Oh, I get Jimmy Choos and an invitation. Fine, I'll go.
Versace for me.
Otherwise, why?
Why?
Thank you.
Why are your rings in?
Do I get a Tiffany diamond?
Did I get a diamond too?
Oh,
yes. And then like small details. So I think like if there's an exit sign, I want it out of there. Yeah. Like little things like that. So a lot of photographers that I've talked to who are looking to pivot more into that luxury marketplace, but they may not have those albums, it would encourage them to really go back, take a look at their best wedding and go through with a fresh set of editing eyes and clean up any of that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that when a planner asks, and in my most perfect world, which is not always what we get, but in the most perfect world, I get 3 full galleries that are kind of different. One that is, let's say at a winery, and one that's inside at a ballroom.
Yeah.
Because for me in the Midwest, most of my weddings are not in natural light.
Right.
It's anybody, at the risk of just being such a jerk, anybody can shoot out California, you know, like you have the most perfect weather and the most perfect light. Come to St. Louis and shoot inside the Ritz-Carlton where there is not a single window, and I'm not joking, and then I will know you can do it, you know?
Yeah. No, you're
absolutely
100%.
Now, in a perfect world, would you like to be able to find these galleries on your own, or are you only hoping to see them when you reach out to a photographer for like an introductory email?
I have not a strong opinion. I like to me, you have to have a website with very clear, like quick way to contact you. Yep. I do love when there are websites that have a form that is for planners versus for couple, because the kiss of death for me is that I get an email back that says, congratulations on your engagement. Kiss of death. I'm done. Because if you can't read the details of my email, you're not going to read the details of my timeline. Yep. So I think but more often than not, I just look for that quick email address and I send like, hey, I have this wedding this date. Could you send me a few? What I want to know right off the bat is, what are the general price range? Mm-hmm. Am I looking at 10 to 15? Am I looking at 15 to 20? Because I do think in the level that most of your students are playing in, and most of my couples, you're going to do a personalized proposal for them most likely. That is really huge when I can put that in front of a couple that shows them that you took the detail. But I want to know if I'm in the right ballpark, because with our clients, we manage most of the finances of the wedding. Yep. So here's a ballpark. Here's a couple of, galleries for you to take a quick look at. Can we have a quick 10-minute call so I can put together a custom proposal? That to me is the most perfect process. Yeah. And I like to put 3 packages or looks in front of my couple, because it's a sales tactic for me to get them to work with who I want. Mm-hmm. When I can say, you know what, you don't need that top tier package that has 4 photographers and 3 albums. Like, give them something that is so big that it's easy to take away, that they can target that middle package. So when I'm selling your services, we can both be on the call, and Jennifer, you can be like, no, you don't need that. And I'm like, yeah, girl, I agree. But I do think you need that middle. So that's really nice when I'm set up for success, because I think I can sell pretty well, but that would set me up for the most success.
There's one word, and it's not surprising that this is the word I'm hearing you say over and over again. It's detail. Guys, it's not shocking that a talented planner and stylist would be grading us on how well our attention to detail, both in inquiry, reading the timeline, capturing the images, and then refining the images afterward, and how much that matters, which makes me think that you've probably seen some shit
Definitely.
and been treated in some ways that were less than par would be expected.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to treat every wedding, whether it's the ugliest wedding that you're ever going to work, and it's never going to be in your portfolio, to be treated with the same respect that you would with your $1 million budgets. Absolutely. This actually happened to me recently. We had an event out of town. We did not find the photographer. We tried to talk the couple out of it. And the photographer really could not keep up with the timeline on the day of, and really didn't give me the time of day. They couldn't have cared. It was very much the feeling of, you're just from St. Louis. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was not a lovely feeling. But I'm a little bit used to it. So whatever, we moved on. Well, guess who reached out? Guess who figured out who they were finally working with once they started following me on Instagram last week, and was like, oh yeah, this team is legit. They know what they're doing. And then emailed yesterday to see if we wanted to collaborate on submitting the wedding somewhere. And I was just like, come on, like you have to treat everybody with the same respect. You don't know who anybody is. And even if it wasn't an ugly wedding, but let's say it was the worst wedding I've ever done, you don't know who that couple knows or who's invited to that wedding. And if they see you hustling on a mid-size, a low-end wedding, and they tell their friends about it, you just don't know who knows who or who anybody is. And so I think it's really important to hustle no matter what, and to a great product no matter what.
We talk all the time about how it's not just the quality of your photography, but experience working with you. If you're fun to work with and you're providing high quality imagery, that goes so much further. But you're absolutely right. Like, money does not buy taste. And sometimes people that have paid me the most amount of money have weddings that do not inspire me in terms of design, but they're billionaires, and everyone there has plenty of money to hire me. And of those 10 bridesmaids, easily 3 of them have great style and are going to get married in Croatia or somewhere. And so if I have a great relationship with the bride and I have fun and I just enjoy my job and the team, you have no idea what that could turn into in 18 months, 3 years. So you're 1,000% right. That's how you build longevity in a career. You're there to do a job, do it to the best of your ability, and be enjoyable to work with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, 100%, because I think somebody who supports me and supports the wedding and supports the couple. I mean, look, we are not in a position, especially if you don't live in a huge marketplace, where every wedding can be $1 million wedding. I have weddings this year, and I'm 16 years into this industry, 12 years into owning my own business. I have weddings this year with a $30,000 budget, and I have weddings with multi 6-figure budgets. And they both are getting the same level of service from us, because you don't know who knows who. And I think where, people make the mistake is they want every wedding to be that $1 million wedding. But in order to serve those $1 million weddings and to support them the best, you have to have some where you're just going to cash the check. It may not be inspiring to you. Maybe it's not going to be in your portfolio, but it is easy money, because at the end of the day, like, we all have to have a profit or we're not going to continue forward. And so I think having equal parts, inspiring, design heavy, takes me, I think the largest tinted wedding we ever did took 5,500 hours of planning over 3 years. I need to balance that out with somebody that I'm going to cash the check and have a 15-minute phone call with at once every 4 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise I wouldn't sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and let's not discount the fact that the ones that support your business and maybe aren't the most inspiring give you the opportunity to sharpen your skills, to lean into areas where you're growing. So like our students, if you're still refining your tablescape skills or your flat lay flat skills or whatever it is, every opportunity we have to do our craft is an opportunity that we're getting better. And so that we're even more prepared for those big ticket weddings. I mean, if you struggle with like controlling a timeline, that's a great opportunity to impress a planner. The wedding I just shot, it was my second luxury event for this team or for this family. And they booked me because they stayed behind at their friend's wedding and watched us run a family photos post-wedding. And they were like, well, I love her. And that's how we got 2 of their daughters' weddings. So like,
wow.
You never know when you are holding the audience of a potential client,
right.
Ever. Actually, the videographer this weekend was like feeling really down on themselves. Like, why can't every wedding be inspirational? And I was like, because we're a business, bro.
Yeah. And we call it polishing a pig. Like you can take a wedding that's almost there. You know, you can make a $500,000 wedding look like $1 million wedding. You can make a $100,000 wedding look like a $500,000 wedding if you are being highly intentional in the way that you're collaborating with your team and you're photographing the event. But in terms of managing it, like if you are struggling to manage a $100,000 or a $500,000 wedding, then that is the greatest practice to be able to get to that luxury market. Absolutely. Because if you're thrown into $1 million wedding or an ultra luxury wedding, that is a production at that point.
Yep.
On every level. Like as the photo team, it is a production. Everybody has their own schedule. There's anywhere from 3 to 5 of you who each have different roles at different parts of the day. You're not just like hanging out together. Yes. Zone coverage. Yes.
It's so fun.
Yes, it is. We are no longer man to man. This is a zone coverage. Yes, you get your shots on this half. I get my shots on that half. Yeah.
Yeah. So this weekend's wedding, like the timeline sent out is like, this is what you're doing at this time, and you and you and you, and this is when we're together, and this is when we separate. And so like you have to be able to build up to that. So it is really important. You are different. Oh,
go ahead.
You go ahead, because mine was going to
say, I think for your students, if you have weddings that are lower end, mid-size, I think just reaching out to those planners, I would welcome having a conversation about the timeline. Or about the details. So the planner is going to benefit from you being able to shoot those details looking better than they actually are. And so just saying like, tell me a little bit about this color scheme or the invitation or whatever that looks like. Maybe I will run through Home Goods and grab a little trinket and I will put it on there and I will return it on the way home. It's no harm, no foul. But I have a photographer that I work with semi-regularly, and one of the worst invitations I ever had. I mean, the client was using ellipses on the invitations, like a dot, dot, dot. It was like, black tie optional, dancing required on a freaking invitation. But that's not, he made that look incredible because of how he shot it. Yeah. And one little tip I would give your students, I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but up and coming stationery companies need like product photos. And if you want to hone or practice, it is great.
It's getting pretty gross out here. Sorry, that just scared us.
Lightning was like, I saw it.
I don't know if you heard me whisper a second ago.
I was like,
I said, this is bad.
Who's photographer in your studio?
Well, we're 41 floors up in downtown Dallas.
And then I was like, I whispered, this is getting bad. And then I was like, oh my God, I hope she didn't hear me and think I was talking about her. I'm talking about the weather.
No. If I was totally sucking right now, I would hope that you would just like text me on the side and be like, you got to wrap it up, Kate, or something. All I was going to say is like, reach out to an up and coming stationer too, and ask them if you can play with some of their invitations and give them that it's free marketing for you, because now that stationer is going to be posting it, and it's just an opportunity for you to practice. Like take home a centerpiece, take it out of the vessel, leave the vessel there, take it home. You'll have the flowers the day after the wedding, practice. And I think when some of the photographers that I feel like I have moved on with in my career, it was because we started doing things like that together. Okay, you take the flowers home. Here's the 2 invitations. Shooting it with a fake ring from Amazon, those type of things, I think are really great ways to practice your craft.
Agreed. One thing that I think makes you and your company different is your Kate & Co. And you said like you have weddings anywhere from $30,000 to multi-million-dollar events. So in terms of photographers building a relationship with you, how can they also potentially build a relationship with your team? And maybe talk a little bit about what Kate & Co. is like, because a lot of
Yeah.
Photographers are used to planners that are like one-man bands, but that's not how you operate. You own like,
No.
you're like a production house, right? So can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so I was very intentional when I named my company that it wasn't going to be Kate Turner Events, and that is not knocking all the people who have wonderful companies that do that. But I wanted the people on my team to have top billing alongside me, that you could come work with any of our event planners and you should get the same level of service, whether you're the couple or a vendor or a creative partner on the event. You should have the same level of service and same experience. It is for the same reason why throughout my entire career, I've really never charged differently for working with me than somebody else on my team.
Okay.
That is a change we recently made because I'm focusing on tent weddings. I don't charge more, but I do bill differently now. But that's the first time in 12 years that I've done that. For us, all of our events have a minimum of our largest events, 2 people on the team. So you have our executive director, Kimmy, and you have myself for our tented weddings. That is because I know myself well enough that I'm much more of a creative person. And when you get into those large scale productions, I can do it, but I am not as strong in the details, the fine details, and it's too much for one person to manage. And so I think that I have had some success because I have gotten good at hiring people that are my opposites. So people who can my yin to my yang, instead of hiring a bunch of people that talk like me, shop like me, act like me. I have people so Kimmy's strong suit is operations, is logistics. My strong suit is creative and design. And we will occasionally bump heads. I will say, yes, I want to hang flowers there. And she'll be like, no, you can't. And I'll be like, yes, I can. It just costs money. And then she'll be like, no, you literally can't, because it's not a load bearing ceiling. So, but I think having 2 people is really important. And so we view ourselves, we pretty intentionally don't call ourselves a design firm, but more of a creative director of your wedding. And so we put together the mood boards. We do a creative brief for all of our couples. And we are in every single meeting. We don't charge by the hour. We don't charge because I don't want them to go have a meeting with their stationery firm and end up with the wrong color green. That would be devastating to me. So I want to make sure, right? I want to make sure yes, it all coordinates and all goes well. And I can't be set. If I'm going to be ultimately held responsible for everything that goes right, but most importantly, anything that goes wrong on the event day, I have to be included in every decision they're making throughout the entire process. So then Eli joined our team in January and has totally been kicking ass, but Kate & Company over the last 12 years has had many iterations. So Eli is our special events coordinator, and she takes the mid-sized budget. So she specializes in the ballrooms, the country clubs, the things that don't need a full build out. Yeah. But still those couples get 2 people because I'm doing the creative and Eli's doing the project management. And she came to us with a events PR background. And so that has been a huge game changer for us because I feel like we've driven ourselves to get even more efficient. On the event day, I roll with a minimum of 5 people on my team. That is the minimum our couples get. And we can have up to 18 people depending on the level of production. Yeah. We do not charge our couples more for the number of people. That was very important to me from the beginning because I want to decide how many people I need to have a flawless execution. Mm-hmm. So if I need 4 people there to steam the linens because it's a room flip instead of the standard 1, I don't want to have to argue with that client about steaming the linens or not steaming the linens. It needs to be done. That is our standard. And so when we're pitching against other planners, we're oftentimes more expensive, but that's because things that other planners make optional that would be add-on services for them at the end are standards from us, and it starts at the beginning for us. And then on our team, our CFO, our production manager, we have a couple of other people on the back end that help us support us as well.
Yeah. You have a big team. Like if you go to her website and you look at her about, you'll see that she's got everything covered. And it's what I love is what I hear a lot of is a lot of self-care for you. You're making sure that you still love what you do because you have aligned yourself with taking care of the things that either are just more than one person can handle or just not your favorite things to do. Like you love to design and you've bought yourself the space to get to do that mostly, which is incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, I think being able to bring on somebody of Eli's caliber, it's been Kimmy and I for 10 years. And she literally worked her first wedding the day before she graduated from college. So she really has helped me build this business. And for her and I to be in a position to attract and hire somebody of Eli's caliber was a really big changing point in our business, to know that we could do that. But it was also a little bit of a gift to myself, because I've given myself back some time to be doing things that I've always had a passion for, but really struggled to carve out the time for, because I was too bogged down in the minutia of meeting with couples, in not being able to have efficient processes in the back end. And like we said, 30 minutes ago, no one's out there teaching photographers, planners, florists how to do this kind of stuff until somebody like yourself has put together. I love your education platform so much, because it feels like bite-sized pieces for your students, instead of 40 videos that you're going to watch the first 5 and then you fall off and never do it. And I think, as I think about education for planners, I want something out there for us that's similar to what you guys are doing. It's incredible.
Well, Thank you. We appreciate that. Yeah. What I'm hearing is that what you said was just so multifaceted. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of photographers can lose sight that the team that arrives at a wedding day that they're doing is not just people that the planner has hired to come help them all the time. Oftentimes it's a family. And I have seen, back when I would second shoot a whole lot, photographers treat lead planners with excellence and respect, but then treat their team like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to listen to her. Her opinion doesn't mean anything. I can tell her I need all the butter pads off here, or whatever. So has there ever been is there an opportunity for photographers or just teams in general to treat your team better? And what are some ways that we could grow there?
Yes. I mean, I think you have to respect everyone on the team. We're not perfect. And I think any planner that operates from a perspective that they are perfect and everything they are doing perfect is setting themselves up for failure. Yeah. But in how you approach any situation where, something needs to change, I think speaks volumes to me. So the way that you can kind of get me is you treat my team with respect and you own up to any mistakes, because like I'm not perfect, I also don't expect perfection from my photographers or my florists. Things happen, right? There's an emergency. You're dealing with equipment. I'm dealing with equipment. Like, things happen. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, because I will tell you, if I have to come in, it's oftentimes because my team has tried and tried and tried, and then I have to be the bad guy, which I'm oh so happy to be. But I won't ever use that person again, because if they're not treating my team with respect, then I have no patience for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because really, I joke about it and she hates when I say this, but Kimmy is really number one at this business, and Kate is number 2, because she does about 80% of the work with our weddings, and I'm about that small 20. So if Eli or Kimmy or Alex or anybody on my team came and said, John Smith photography last weekend was not doing X, Y, and Z, and it hurt my feelings, it bothered me, it was inappropriate, it was unprofessional, whatever that looks like, I'm done. Because if you can't treat the lowest man on the totem pole with respect, I think that just says a lot about your character, and it's not somebody I want to align my business with.
Yeah, if you're not the same person all the time and you're just putting on a face to impress somebody to make some money, that is the most unattractive thing out there, and I don't want to support that. When I had Atlas, year and a half ago or whatnot, I had to send an associate to shoot a wedding for me, and it was a planner that I was so freaking geeked to work with. Like, I had been manifesting it, and it was so exciting, and I had an extremely strong associate going to handle it who was going to do an incredible job. And when I found out that planner was nasty to my associate, like straight up rude, my excitement about working with that planner completely died, and now I could care less. And so It's that exact same thing. Like, the way you treat people says so much more about you than your quality and body of work.
Yeah.
And so it goes so far. Like,
and to me, it has to show up in your actions. So I think like we can all get on our Instagram and talk at our camera and say community over competition, woo, woo, woo.
Right.
But if it's not showing up in your actions, you know, I will tell you this story where about a photographer who did an incredible job. I don't know if I screwed up or someone on my team screwed up or if the client screwed up, but it doesn't matter. We had a wedding with an incredibly difficult D-list celebrity, and they're the worst, right? Your A-listers are like lovely, but like D-list, they're the worst. And honestly the worst. She was terrible, but she never booked the photographer for her rehearsal dinner. And I mean, I thought I screwed up. So I've gone back through every email, every text. She never did. But I get a text, you know, rehearsal's over. She didn't hire us to do the rehearsal dinner. So I'm on my way home. Hey, Kate, when is so-and-so going to be here to photograph the rehearsal dinner? I'm surprised they're not here yet. And I was like, okay, now is not the time for me to go back and say, well, you never hired this person for the rehearsal dinner because you're a terrible person and you're going to have to be right. And in this point, it's not important for me to be right. So I fire off a text message to my photographer and I'm like, I think you were supposed to be at the rehearsal dinner and none of us got the memo. And he was like, okay, I'm at dinner with my family, called an Uber, went home, changed, and was down at the Ritz-Carlton. And he lives about 40 minutes outside of the city. I mean, 45 minutes. And he was down at the Ritz-Carlton photographing the rehearsal dinner.
Wow.
He was not like, well, Kate, you messed up, or client, you messed up. There was no pointing fingers. It was, look, I know how difficult this client is. It's going to put us both in a terrible position if I'm not there. We can worry about who's right or wrong later, but I'm going to support you in this moment and I will be there. And that said a lot about that person's character, that they were able to drop everything and be there, and they made me look good. They looked good, and the client was ultimately happy. And now we toast to never sharing those images on our website because we won't give her the satisfaction of being on our website because she was so terrible. But she has them.
Yes. Listen, if a planner texts me like 2 days before a wedding, the moment I see their name, I'm like, oh my God, what am I not doing that I'm supposed to be doing? Like, it is 100%. The most anxiety-driven situation.
We have nightmares.
Nightmares. My biggest nightmare,
discussed but not booked, because I'm like, I feel like I will be like, just a reminder, we were not booked for the rehearsal dinner. If you guys wanted to add that, because I'm terrified that you're gonna think that I'm gonna be there.
There are so many things that I could fix on a wedding day, but my two biggest fears is forgetting to book the photographer or the band. Like, it takes so much contracting and like paperwork to book both of those things. It's like it would be almost not possible to like not have booked them. But it's just like it's the nightmare. Like how would I, that's like an unfixable thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I'm curious. We do have quite a few questions, but I want to encourage you guys to keep them coming. Here's my one. Are there any trends or fads that you're excited to see go? And is there anything stylistically or aesthetically that you're really excited to implement going forward?
Okay. I am pretty classic. I like classic photos. I like when red looks like red and skin tones look like skin tones, and things are, okay. I mean, this Sophia Richie thing is like blowing up. Like, I don't understand why we're taking crooked photos. I don't understand why we're putting the groom underneath a veil again and taking that photo. I like things as they exist naturally, as they happen. So if you get a blurry photo because you have a bride just totally going ham on the dance floor, rocking out to her favorite song, then that is amazing. And I love that. Or if a photo ends up a little bit crooked because you happen to grab the best, candid moment and it makes sense not to edit it differently or to crop it differently, then great. But I would really love those trends of doing it just to do it, to go away. Yeah. And to me, I think it's okay to post some of those photos because it does show as a photographer for your students that you're staying up with trends, but they should not be your whole feed. They should not be your whole portfolio, because as a planner, that says to me that they can only do that one look and they're not going to have any longevity. And if I'm booking you for an event that's 12, 18 months out from now, that may not be popular then. So I would love to see those trends go. Today, immediately.
We're doing our best.
We had a whole chat last night and then again this morning, Kate and I, about how we feel about
doing the Lord's work out there, guys.
I was like, you triggered me.
I saw something beautiful last night, and we both do nightly bath time rituals for inner peace. And I was scrolling, and I literally turned my phone. I was like, what is happening? I'm like, I'm not trying to bring back the Dutch crop, which is what it's called. I'm just not about it. Just not about it.
Great. No,
I don't want it to look like a 5-year-old took it on an iPhone.
No.
What about for you, whenever you're planning, aesthetically, what's something you're excited about going forward?
I am excited that I feel like I'm working with more color this year. And that's really, I think when you have color, people just look happier.
Yeah.
I did not like the trend of everybody being in a neutral colored dress. I think it washes people out. And I think you can just have so much fun with color. I love that we're seeing more pattern mixing, more layers. I think the trend right now is going more to experiences and more delicate place settings, more layered place settings. So not as many huge over the top flowers, but more intentional in terms of how you are doing those things. And then investing more in the experience, whether that's your band, your escort card, it's a surprise moment or something along those lines. I'm really excited that I get to be really thoughtful about how somebody is receiving something or experiencing something. That's I've always craved that in my career, but maybe not had the budget to support that. And so I feel really happy that I'm finally in a place in my career where I maybe have those budgets, but also that it's on trend. Yeah. Because I'm such a hospitality person. To me, how you treat someone, we've talked a lot about that, is hugely important. Yeah. And so how you treat your guests, how you break bread with them, and how you entertain, I think is important. And I like that that's trending.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. It's has so much more meaning for the guests and the couple. And of course, it feels so much better for all of us as well.
It's true.
Absolutely.
One thing that I want to make sure we talk about before we move to their questions is, since you have Eli, and do you think that if somebody is working to build a relationship with a production company like yours that has multiple planners running their own weddings, should they take an approach of like, I'm going to build a relationship with the whole team and I'm more likely to get my foot in the door with Eli type thing? Talk a little bit about like somebody who's maybe in the mid market and looking to move up, and how they might approach that if they're looking at the long game, but also the short game.
Absolutely. I mean, I do look at my team to I don't want this to sound conceited, so please don't judge me for this, but to bring me who's fresh and who's new. I feel like I have been doing this for 12 years. I've established my portfolio and I have the people I love working with. And there's always new people coming in and out, right? But new people on my team are starting just to build their portfolio and establish who their people are. And I welcome that. So to answer that question plainly without sounding like a snob is like, yes, it is probably far easier to get in the door with my team first. Mm-hmm. And then they come to me. So typically what we do is we set out one day a month that is for networking, and we try to keep it to that day. And so sometimes I'll pop into those meetings, but really Kimmy and Eli vet those people first and then are kind of like, yeah, I think they have a portfolio that it might be somebody we want to work with, or I think their bands are somebody we could refer, or a gentle no. And it's not because their time is more valuable than mine. It's just, we got to the point where I could sit in a networking meeting and all I could see is dollar signs, because I have 5 people on my team in one meeting. And if it went an hour, I'm like, well, this networking meeting is somebody I may or may not actually work with. It cost me $1,000 in payroll. Mm-hmm. And that's just not efficient. No. And so what we've tried to do, I've used that word a lot today, is get more efficient. So very plainly, yes, it is probably easier to create a relationship with someone on my team than it is me. And that's not me being a snob. I also have 3 young kids at home. And so if I have an extra hour in my day, it's always going to be something for my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
We love that.
It's true.
We love that. We get that. So realistically, they should know that like there is more than one opportunity. And when they see a production company, they should be going to build a relationship with everyone on the team and getting involved, commenting, all of those things. But then also, you guys have heard her say it many times, she loves details. So if you don't have details on your Instagram and on your homepage of your website, like I know we've had a lot of website reviews lately. People were at Hybrid and they were doing website reviews. And when we dip in and look at your websites or your Instagram, and we don't, in that first 9 or in that first 2 scrolls, if there's not any detail shots, planners are equally your client as a bride. So you need to be showing the things that attract them as well. You need to be thinking, I need to show people for my brides and I need to show details for my planners, because both of them are your clients. So make sure that you're speaking to both of them.
Yeah. I think that we talk a lot about this in the planner world. I'm curious if it's the same for photographer, and I have 2 subject matter experts here, but I view my Instagram as for my couples and my website is for their moms. So the photos that I use in my Instagram are attract a more younger person. So I use video content mixed with photos, versus on my website, it's just video at the landing and then more photos throughout. My copy on my website is more buttoned up than my copy on my Instagram. And I'm curious if you think that's true for photographers as well.
I do, yeah. I think Instagram is probably where a planner is going to see your work first, because
Absolutely.
they're not going to go to just randomly go to your website. So I do think that Instagram has to be a great balance for us. But I think website really needs to speak to everyone as much as possible by having a lot of great variety, but being more buttoned up for sure.
Yeah. I also think if I was looking at a gallery, and I should have mentioned this when we were talking about it earlier, but wide shots and tight shots of the same thing, I think are hugely important. Yep. So if you're doing a flat lay of an invitation, you have the wide shot, but then close up of some of the details, or you have the whole table setting, but then you have a close up of several of the details. So for those people that attended Landlocked Luxury, a few have reached out and asked me to give them an audit of one gallery, which I did. And it was really interesting because I just finished one, and the person that I did, I really didn't see any details on their Instagram, but when they sent me the gallery, they actually were really, really great details, great tight shots and wide shots. And I was like, this is one of the first galleries that I've been really impressed by. Mm-hmm. And you're not showing that to your planners on your site, So I think if you look at that top 9 and it's all couples, that's a mistake.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
What you're saying is variety is the spice of life.
Sure, yeah.
And we talk with them
also,
all
I like that my internet is working now after 40 minutes in,
No, you've been great.
You've been great.
Oh, good. Okay.
We talk with them all the time, whether it's about posing or composition or flat lays or tablescapes, the power of multiple vignettes and moments and how it should feel like you're getting many perspectives of one thing. So that's just such a beautiful reiteration of
that's how we
tell them all the time.
That's how you tell a story and keep attention. Keep attention.
It's true. Steven Spielberg doesn't always shoot in the wide or in the up close. He's everywhere,
Absolutely, Mr. Spielberg. One thing that really impressed me recently with a photographer, it was the first time I worked with them, is they just followed up and sent a link. And I mean, now we are a couple months after the wedding, so this takes some time. It's not like you're expecting it the next day, but they sent a link to, and it was like, here's all the photos for the florist, a bunch of photos for the stationer, a bunch. So they had already gone through and edited out like what they thought each person would, along with a link to the full gallery. She reached out and said, is this something you want to send to everyone, or are you comfortable with me sending it? Which is not a requirement, but I really appreciated that she put me in the driver's seat. It showed a lot of respect for the referral. And I was like, oh girl, no, you put all the work in it. You send it. Thank you for thinking of that. I gave her a copy of everybody's Instagram handles that she could pair with it. But it wasn't something that I asked for or anybody asked for. But I think that photographer realized their best marketing is the free marketing on social media. It's the planners, it's the venues, it's the whoever putting their photo on their website, I think is hugely important.
Yeah.
I feel
One thing I want to say that I sparked my own train of thought is I'm curious if this is a debate you guys have. I am a really big fan of the next day preview. And I know this is a hot debate in the photography world right now.
It is hot.
This is
Before we go there,
hot.
you guys, if in your brain you weren't immediately thinking how your network is your net worth, then you haven't watched the marketing glow up and go figure it out.
Yeah, you have so many free marketing opportunities to just put a little bit more effort, because like we said earlier, it's the planner, it's the florist, it's the bride. You have so many clients on a wedding day that you can impress, that'll be sending you work and singing your praises and saying your name in the room, and that's what we're here for. But
next days,
we call them same week because it depends on the caliber of wedding. If it's $1 million wedding, the next day you are dead.
I don't want to talk to you.
You're likely traveling. So I had a big one this weekend, and their sneaks went out on Monday. But yes, we are into the sneaks because we want the professional photos to be shared first, but we do try to keep it minimal so that
I'm talking 5, 10.
Oh
Like,
no, we're talking like 50.
I'm like, we're not that minimal. I think I accidentally said 100.
That's great. But when that couple wakes up on Monday morning and before they leave for their honeymoon, to me, I do not understand the argument of why you wouldn't want it to be your professional image.
Yeah.
Because then they leave for their honeymoon and they're in Hawaii for 2 weeks and they don't care about the wedding imagery anymore because now they're posting pictures of them in their swimsuit in Hawaii. And so you want to get it out. Otherwise, it falls flat because all of their friends have FOMO that weren't at the wedding and they're following along on the stories. And now they're like, oh, Jennifer shot that wedding. I'm going to follow her because it looks so beautiful. And I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I also have to laugh at myself because this is why I hire people that aren't like me. I didn't realize there were comments on the side, guys. So great. I now have the commentary open. If there are any questions,
We have lots of questions. We do.
Yeah, well, don't worry. We'll
I
get
have
to the question.
one more before
Somebody
we
else
jump
can
into
pay
the
attention to it, right?
Yes, right? That's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So one thing before we jump into their questions, can you briefly tell me about an experience on a wedding day with a photographer that was your favorite and why? Like what wedding did you leave from and you were like, the photographer did all of these things and that's what I want every single time. It made me so happy. What are like maybe the 3 things that they could take away that made that a magical experience? You don't have to tell us any names.
Well, I mean, I don't mind. Like if you follow my Instagram, I work with Mike Casamatis Photography. He's St. Louis based a lot. I have a lot of respect for what we did because we made each other better. We put together. He is one of my favorites to work with on a wedding day. For several reasons. He is calm, cool, collected. It does not matter if the timeline is behind or ahead or whatever. You will never see it written on his face. And I think that is something great. He reads the timeline and loads it into his Apple Watch. Yep. So he gets the things going on or has it as his phone background, which I love. I love that he dresses appropriately. He will shoot in a suit and tie anytime. And I think that's great. But the best part about working with him is that my whole day is easy because I know that he does what he needs to do. Yep. And so I think that takes a little bit of time. You have to, I would encourage your students, instead of having a list of like top tier planners they want to work with, find somebody who's at a similar level to with you and see how you can come up together. Yep. Because let's face it, like Lynn Easton has the photographers that she is going to work with, and Marcy Bloom has the photographers she's going to work with, and she's not going to meet you at Engage and be like, yeah, sounds good. I'm going to now start referring you $1 million weddings. Right. So I think it is find those people instead of a list of 20 deep of planners you want to work with, 3 deep that you can work with over and over and over and over again, I think is a more approachable thing to do. So that's my favorite. When I don't have to worry about the photographer, it's not one thing that they do, but a million little things that makes my life much, much, much easier.
Trust.
Well, it's like you shouldn't have to babysit the team that's been hired to work this event with you, right?
I absolutely should not.
No.
And I should be able to communicate with my photographers with my eyes.
Yes.
Like,
or a text.
Yes.
Where are you?
Yes.
ETA.
Yes.
What the fuck is going on?
Right? Everything is fine. Do you mind if we just step into the hall to review the timeline? I sure don't. And then we're both like, what?
It's on fire!
Oh, why is she wearing that? You know, that, or why did they do that? No. I have sent a photographer home once for wearing something inappropriate. So attire is important.
Tell us,
really is.
what were they wearing? I want to know.
Oh,
I was watching that episode of The Office last night.
Right?
Was it Casual Tuesday?
I've never seen The Office. Don't hate me. So I
We
don't
don't hate
know.
you, but
okay.
you would love this episode for sure.
Great. It was a cathedral wedding, black tie. So, which is all information that they knew and had available because the wedding was in Martha Stewart. So they also sent a whole photography team from. They sent Corbin to shoot it for the magazine. So there was many production calls that were. So they had the information.
They were informed.
Yes. Sandals, a silk short romper, like shorts made from silk that had lace edging. So at first glance, it looked like lingerie, and a cardigan.
Interesting.
It was a choice that was made.
Interesting.
There was a choice there.
Dressing the part is it's sight unseen, like for everyone. I mean, when a guest arrives and they don't know anything about you and you look like you take your job seriously, you immediately I can't imagine.
Wow.
I love that you sent them home. That's fantastic.
Yes. The amount of conversations we have to have about outfits as we get into higher caliber weddings is truly mind-blowing.
It's true.
It's tough. I mean, I think you guys probably have it even tougher than we do because you have to be able to move and you're expected to do something in cocktail or black tie attire that no one else is expected to do. Right. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard.
It can be very difficult.
You have to be sweaty and look nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of the Hill House nap dress.
Yes.
Sign me up.
Yes. We do like the Hill. Yes.
We do we have to get pretty creative. And it's like if you're wearing something a little less formal here, then you need to look really great here. You need to look like you really care.
I wear multiple pairs of shoes. Like I show up in comfy shoes and then I put on cute shoes and then I go back to comfy shoes.
Yep.
It's
a whole thing. We often get very jealous of planning and styling teams because they'll like get to wear their more casual outfit as during setup and then they all go change and they look so glamorous.
Yeah. You guys, I know several of the top wedding planners who have a whole hair and makeup team dedicated to their team. Yeah. Which is mind blowing to me.
We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. No.
They must, I mean, I think I have like 18 people on my team and I think that's a lot. Like how many people do you have on your team that you have an hour to go sit in a hair and makeup chair? I don't understand.
But they also usually in when we're thinking about it, like a week of setup for this production.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is a little different.
Very, very true. Well, let's hit these Q&A moments.
Yeah, fire away.
We got it. Lauren Baker wants to know, when is it appropriate to ask these tell me about the color scheme questions?
I mean, probably 30 days out or less. I think we have the information earlier, but chances are we are dealing with another wedding and it's harder to focus on that wedding. Yeah. Our goal internally is 60 days out. We know the family timeline, so we can tell our photographers what we think the family is going to be doing. No less than 30 days out, the vendor timeline is final. So somewhere in that.
You mentioned twice during our conversation, you mentioned the wrong color green and you like when red is red. And so this conversation is paramount, you guys, asking your planning teams to see a design deck. I love even asking for hex codes. I like to know so that whenever I'm editing later, I'm like, correct, we did it. Because these top tier planning teams, they care a lot about color theory.
Very much.
You probably agonize over the perfect shade of yellow to go with the perfect shade of green. Like, it's a big deal.
I actually,
I have multiple boards and I can't look at a swatch. So I make my team paint like a 2x2 board with 4 different shades of green. And then we'll just be staring at it.
yeah. I mean, I like to ask the colors when the lead is sent over for my proposal so that I can put as much in that proposal to speak directly to the client as I can. But that is not the final. It's just the
vision.
And honestly, I think that is hugely important. And sometimes in the inquiry, they'll tell me I'm a black and white girl or whatever. But sometimes you do get couples who they have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of them, right?
Right.
Kelly wants to know, what does a perfect personal proposal look like for you? You did it.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Like your picture, a little bit about you, option 1, option 2, option 3. What do next steps look like? Thank you very much. Here's my links to my social and making sure all of your links actually work. Short and sweet. I do not like when my clients are high net worth individuals. Yeah. Like they are high net worth individuals. They do not have a ton of time. They have hired a planning team to come in to do this shit for them. They don't want 6 paragraphs about you and how you got started. They want to know that, but short and sweet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Okay.
Facebook user wants to know, when you have a photographer on call with a client, who do you prefer lead the call? Would you want the photographer to reach out to you ahead for a game plan?
Yes, I think that's a great question. And just hopping on like 10 or 15 minutes early to make sure you powwow is great. I prefer when the photographer leads the call. I want them to, as a planner, my role is to set my photographer up for success. So I think them running the call the way that they're used to running the call sets them up for the most amount of success. The only things that I would ask them not to not to get into too many of the details of like the timeline of the day or the contract. I handle all of that for my client. But I would also say if that's things you're talking about on your discovery call anyway, you probably need some work on your consult calls.
Yes.
Just in general. But yes, I like to do an intro. I'm matchmaking. So-and-so meets so-and-so. You guys take it. I'm here if there's any questions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's great. One of our students recently was left out to dry by a planner. This was when you were in Mexico during family time. She said they started the call and then she was like, okay, bye, and just turned her camera off. And there was so much information that was not given to the photographer that she lost the lead. And that just sucks. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't want to work with them anyways.
Yes. It's really, couples can be super fickle. I have a photographer who just lost the lead and it was like not their fault by any means, but it was all over Zoom and their internet totally sucked and like we could not get it going. And so there was no way to build a connection.
Yeah.
And so I just thought to myself, okay, and it's somebody I love and I'm not writing that photographer off. I will happily work with them again, but it's just something I now know maybe they need to come to my studio and then we FaceTime the client together or something along those lines.
Yeah. Technical difficulties can be a real ruiner. Oh, I'd rather just talk on the phone than deal with video tech difficulties.
Agreed.
Chua wants to know, do you do portfolio reviews?
Yeah. Shoot me an email. It's easy to find on my website.
Also, Chua wants to know, what do you consider a D-list celebrity? Like influencers or like
are they Z-list?
Real Housewives or
Hilarious.
Bachelorettes?
No. Yes, all of the above. No, it was like somebody who was on 2 or 3 TV shows, but no shows anybody was actually watching. But they thought this highly of themselves and not, Yep.
We could do an entire glow up on how to handle celebs.
Maybe we
should. I've had relatively limited experience. There are certainly people out there who have had more. I have found like some of my pro athletes, especially hockey players, are in St. Louis, they're the best. Like,
that's good.
In St. Louis, the Blues players are awesome because they make enough money that like they can have a great celebration, but they're not like making NBA money, and so they're still sort of normal people. Maybe it was just this D-list celebrity. If you're an internet sleuth, you'll figure it out, and
we will.
Yeah, we'll do it later. We've both done many D-list celebrity weddings, and there have been some that have been great and fruitful, and some that make you just want to quit. So,
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it was
Honestly,
terrible.
I think you could compare the D list to A list to like a mid luxury to a ultra luxury, because the mid luxury client wants more from you than the ultra luxury client. The ultra luxury client just trusts that you're going to do whatever it is that they want, but the mid luxury wants to control so much that you feel overworked and over anxious, and what a difference the experience is for you.
The ultra luxury client, I'm not bidding things out or putting multiple. I'm saying my job is to personality match, right? So if my bride is type A, the photographer I recommend is very different than if I have a dreamer type B couple. But with my ultra luxury clients, it's very much of, here's who I believe you should work with. Let's just meet that person. And if I'm totally off base, we'll rework. So much easier. It is less work in the planning process, but more work in the execution process.
Yes. Agreed.
100%. Lauren wants to know, do you prefer to receive proposals as a hidden website page or a smart CRM link?
I hate CRM communication so much. I hate Honeybook. I'm a Honeybook hater for life. So, okay. But I also am enough of a business person that I recognize the value in a CRM. When you're a one man or woman show, it is really hard to wear that many hats. So I do like CRMs for things like onboarding, signing contracts, sending invoices, offboarding, things like that are great. I hate CRMs for any communication, because ultra luxury clients, they want access. They want it now. They do not want to have to log into a portal to get it. I couldn't care less if it's a hidden website page or a CRM link, because at the end of the day, they are both links that I can send my client. The only thing I would say is if it's a CRM link, make sure that it's accessible without having to like put in special codes and things like that.
Or emails or passwords or any of that crap. Since we're right here, quick question. So basically you get a client, you are matchmaking, and you send one photographer if it's ultra luxury, or maybe two if it's a little less, for them to get to speak to. But when that link is sent to them, you're sharing that with the bride so that the bride can go read and get to them ahead.
So let me take like 2 minutes and I'll tell you a little bit about our process. On the back end, my team will start with a list of 5 to 7 photographers. And that is sort of made up of our tried and true people, but also people we really are dying to work with. People we've networked with. We will narrow that list down to 3, maybe 4 that we will reach out to. We will check availability and recheck pricing. I make no assumption that the last wedding we had is the similar pricing to the next wedding we're going to have. From there, I try to narrow it down, and how far I narrow it down depends on the client. We try to adjust our process to what works best for the client, rather than asking the client to adjust to our process. Some of my clients require 3 for everything. And while it is more work on that, I support them in that. And some of my clients, I know I can just send the 1. So once I have all the pricing and availability, I put it in an email. Hey, so-and-so, here's who we're recommending, blah, 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 blah. In that email is your name, your website link, your Instagram handle, of a gallery. If you sent it me one, and I usually do ask an estimated range. It's not a hard number. And then more information and however I got it. If it's a PDF, it's attached. If it's a link, it's hyperlinked there for them to go to. I don't love PDFs just because it gets cumbersome to save and to attach and things like that. So that is our process.
Okay. I think that's really, really helpful for photographers to know, because a lot of times they're not aware what is being shared. So that's very helpful.
Yep.
And that's why you send a full gallery, especially if it's a full gallery that's in a similar location with similar colors to what the bride is hoping for.
And we will give our couples like some details. So this just happened. She sent me a photographer, was at the Ritz, and she was like, this is 2.5 years old. So I don't necessarily feel like it's my best work, but I'm going to show it to you because that's what you've asked for. Yeah. And I turned but here's a country club with similar lighting. And I said that to the client, this is her work, but I can attest to the fact that this isn't her strongest work. It's 2 years old is the last time she worked at that venue. Here's something stronger that I feel like is similar. But I will also say I'm very honest with my couples. So if there was communication challenges, or if you're telling me your work improved, but I'm not seeing that, I will say that to our couples.
Yeah.
I also categorize our photographers when we send. This is what we consider a master photographer, a tenured photographer, an emerging photographer, or a freshman photographer.
Wow.
And I'm not referring I'm not referring to the length of time, but the quality of work.
I love that. I love that.
That's
My
really
husband,
cool.
one of my husband's like catchphrases is freshman. He gets these two fingers and he'll tap you and say freshman if he feels like you did something like just not
Hilarious. Well, I don't think it's fair to a master photographer or a freshman photographer for somebody to look at their pricing and think they're getting the same level. And so
Appreciate
to
it.
me, it's
Thank
a way of, okay, well, my friend worked with Susie Smith Photography and only spent $5,500. And I can say, great, here's why, because I would categorize them as X versus the person I put in front of you is Y.
Right.
And here's the difference.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's so beautiful. I think that the ability for you to be able to sell the photographers that are right for the event is just, it's a skill not everyone has, and it's beautiful.
It is true. And honestly, it's tough because it just has taken me time.
Yeah.
I try to learn as much as I can about what goes into you guys leading up to a wedding day, so I can tell my clients, well, yes, I know your friend's photographer was 5,000 and this one's 20, but we have 3 or 4 people, and the quality of the equipment and the time they're going to put into it and the details and the editing. And then if I don't understand what you guys do, I can't then sell your services at a higher dollar amount. So I think it's really important. But I also think you have to have the reverse. As a photographer, you are oftentimes one of the first things booked, sometimes even before us. So for you to be able to educatedly speak to the difference between a venue coordinator, a wedding planner, and a wedding designer is hugely important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you also really, really need to be able to explain to a planner how to sell you. I think it's really important.
Yes.
You can't assume that planners know how to sell photography. That's not their business. That's not what they're selling. So if you can't explain how to sell you to a planner, how do you expect to sell yourself? Or how do you expect planners to be able to do that? So that's definitely something that,
and you got to get it short. We all have a lot on our plate. Me, you. So can you get it down to 10 minutes?
Yep.
Like, tell me how to sell you in 10 minutes or less. It's that elevator pitch, which I hate that phrase, but my clients are also busy too.
Yeah.
So if you're going into, again, a kiss of death for me, and this might be controversial, but if you start the call by asking how you got engaged, I'm like, oh my God.
Over.
They have told this story 7,000 times, and now you sound like every other person that they're meeting with. Do something to help them stand out. I can't take credit for this idea. It's our sales coach to help it, but following them on Instagram, looking them up on LinkedIn, knowing what they do for a living, finding a connection. If they're constantly posting about the restaurants they're eating at, like, figure out a way to work that into the conversation, because oftentimes at those high net worth individuals, it's whether they have a connection with you or not. It's not whether they can afford you or not.
Yep, absolutely. And they are tired of telling that story. If they want to tell it, they'll tell it.
You're killing it.
They will find a way.
It's a special moment, and now it's dead.
Yeah.
That's not fun. Connecting about golden retrievers. There's always an opportunity.
Whatever you see, yes.
Well,
Kelly wants to know.
and we did touch on this a little bit.
Yeah. What would wow you after a wedding? Full gallery of images to download, or what is something that somebody's done that you love?
Yeah, I mean, a full gallery without me having to ask for it is great, but even if you wanted to wow me, if it was pre-organized by like ceremony, reception, details, couple, send off, or whatever,
Go
that
right to
is
where you want.
Yep.
She's like, details, thank you.
And bye.
apparently that's the name of the game.
Yep, it is. It is. And then Allison here at Develop Academy wants to know, what are your favorite places to get headbands? She's literally obsessed with the one on your head.
All of the girls are going crazy for these.
You have so many. Every time I see you, I'm like, what? It's so amazing.
This is that Lily San whatever.
Oh,
her
Lily
name.
Sundui or
Yes.
Dowie?
So my team has have certain things that they have to wear on wedding day. So I bought everybody accessories. So this is one of my wedding day headbands. So my team has similar ones that like are good for their personality, but for like everyday use of things that are going to be really trendy. I mean, Amazon, I hate to say it.
Yeah. Listen, we
I
don't
just
have our
lining Jeff Bezos' pockets. Just
I can't even. I feel like they should send me a W-2. So
Yep.
you know.
I bought a face roller this week that you put in the freezer, and I'll drop the link. That thing, I didn't realize I had some swelling going on in my face, but we're besties now.
Your jaw is looking sharp.
Thank
so
you. It was the ice roller. Well, and kind of genetics. But yeah, Amazon. Man, we love Lily too. We have one of her stores is here in Dallas, so me and Emmy like to go, and she gets to pick one out at the beginning of the school year. It's fun.
Oh, it looks like we got a few more questions.
I was just trying to go.
Yeah. Do you feel the same about CRMs like all together or just Honeybooks? I think all together.
Okay. I feel like I do a Sunday Q&A with all my followers, and there always is a theme. So like I felt like in March, it was how to tip your vendors. I kept getting this. And now in April, it is CRMs. No, you know what? I joke about Honeybook. I think you should use it if especially if you were an early adopter and it's affordable for you, because I recognize that is important. What I don't like about Honeybook specifically is it makes collaboration between planners, couples, and the vendor very, very difficult. And I think no matter how many times people have asked for them to change that, it hasn't gotten changed. So whatever CRM you're using, as long as I, as the planner, can access the information quickly and easily, as well as the couple, that is great. But honestly, it's probably more important for me to access it, because all of my clients, I'm the one managing their contract. I'm usually making payments on their behalf.
Yep.
Like I don't pay it out of my account, but I have their credit card and sometimes even their checkbook that I'm writing. Like I'm literally paying people on their behalf.
Yeah.
So that's what's important to me. What I don't like about Honeybook right now is I have 6 weddings that are using one stationer who uses Honeybook, and I have to log in differently each time. And now I have to get a code to confirm who I am. It takes too many steps for me to access the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether you're a Dubsado user or a Honeybook, or I recently had somebody using Sprout Studio, which I thought was really easy to use. It doesn't matter to me as long as it is just quick, easy information that I can access. Yeah. I know somebody uses 17 Hats. I mean, I've seen all of them, and Honeybook just is the one that right now is giving me the most
trouble.
Literally, yes. I think planners hate Honeybooks, period, end of story. I've heard them all say it.
Yep.
They even
when I posted that on Instagram, my DMs blew up.
It's because Honeybooks was very cheap, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
That Sprout Studio was pretty easy. That was the first time I'd seen that one. 17 Hats I've used is pretty, I mean, whatever. Yeah. I don't, as long as it's just
easy.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear, and you talk about the issue of like having to do a password and codes and all that stuff. We talk about it all the time. Like even logging into a gallery and having to put in your email is just annoying. Like, can you imagine being like, I'm going to go on a Target run, but before you get to go in, they're going to ask you for all your credentials to make sure you belong.
To show your ID that you're 21.
Tell me your driver's license number. Also, how much do you weigh? Like, I don't want to go here anymore.
Yes. Like they want access. They want it now.
Yep.
So I think you have to adjust your process to how your couples work best. You may have a couple who is a CRM lover because they are organized, anal retentive, whatever. Send them through your CRM, give them the portal, give them the access. And then you're going to have me who hates it and you email with me. That's fine.
Yep.
Being flexible.
Really, usually it comes down to just providing the same level of ease and service that you would want to receive.
For yourself.
Yeah.
If a photographer is sending you their pricing guide, do you prefer collections start at 8, 9, or 10 hours? What's your ideal hours of coverage?
I've never done anything less than 10. So I don't understand people who can do it in 8 or 9.
It's hard.
Especially because if it's back to back. So I'm in St. Louis, huge Catholic contingency. So a lot of my weddings, so this could be skewed for me. A lot of my weddings are at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock with a the Catholic Gap,
Yeah.
and then the reception. I typically prefer that all three of the packages I see are the same number of hours, and it's things like the rehearsal dinner or the album that are optional add-on services to me. So when I have that like 10-minute quick call, when I say I want 3 packages sent my way, those 3 packages would all be the same number of hours. Things to me that are never optional are an engagement session. I
had a feeling it was coming.
Like that never should be optional. Even if you already got photos taken with someone else, you guys have to meet beforehand. Yeah. You have to figure out if they're an awkward couple, if they blink weird, whatever that is. And so it should never be optional. The 2 things that are optional to me are the album and the rehearsal dinner welcome party extra things. I always want a second photographer if I can have it, or at the bare minimum, an assistant. Yes. So I do like when my photographers show that as not an option, because it just sets the tone with that client from the beginning of this is something I have to have, because they didn't even make it an option. Yeah. Where I see a lot of people trying to pivot into the luxury market make the mistakes is having too many a la carte options, and then it gives people choices that we as the planner and you as a photographer don't want them to make. Just take that choice out of there.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
We got all of their questions.
Yeah.
We did it.
Amazing. Oh yes. Go to Amazon. This is only bougie because I wear it on wedding days. No.
Listen, we're not judging your bouginess. Mm-mm. No,
this is classic me. I have on an expensive headband and expensive shoes, but then I have on Target joggers because, like, let's face it, I'm on Zoom all day today. So I wore a cute top for y'all from Anthro, and then I have on my cheap stuff on that. I'm a high-low shopper. I'm a high-low buyer, you know. I don't think you have to look bougie on wedding days. You just have to look put together.
Agreed.
It's all about balance. Always.
And shoes.
And shoes.
I'm with you, Charlotte. Like 4 shoes, absolutely on a pair of. I wore
like 3 this last weekend.
Yep.
Then I'm in heels. Then I'm in flats. Then I'm back in tennis shoes.
Yep. Exactly.
As soon as people are drunk enough to not notice my feet, it's time for the comfiest shoes available.
I'm basically like going to make sure the planner sees
that I care.
And then I'm going to be like, and now you know that, like, right, I might die if I don't change shoes. Oh. So, well, we're so grateful that you
asked you a question, a photography question. Cool. So this came up with a bunch of planners I was talking with last night. Have you ever had a planner give you a walkie-talkie that gives you access to her team? And how do you feel about that?
I have not ever.
I think I wouldn't mind it, but I'd probably give it to my assistant.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, I haven't had that happen, and I don't think it would bother me unless they were just doing a lot of talking that did not pertain to me.
Right.
And I was really busy.
Could I have a separate channel? What's the scope of the day? Like, is it like Anna's wedding where, I mean, that would have been nice.
Separate, yeah.
It was so
far. I do typically have planners put together a text thread, though, that's like with them and their assistant and me and mine. And it'll be like, hey, cocktails have been staged and are set to be shot whenever you have a minute. So, like, if somebody's available, they can run over and do that, and we can be doing 2 things at once. But if y'all were, like, talking about things that had nothing to do with me, then it might slowly...
It might be a little distracting.
Yeah.
But,
you know.
Okay.
With proper usage could be a very valuable tool.
Yeah. So we, as a standard, we don't wear name tags. We don't carry clipboards. We like to look almost like I could sit down at a table and be a guest of the wedding.
Yeah.
But when you're constantly putting your phone out to text somebody, I sometimes struggle with, is that okay? Is that not okay? And so this came up in my planner mastermind last night. And so I was just curious what photographers thought of that.
Yeah.
I do think that seeing someone on their phone all the time can make you feel like they're not working.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I do think that when we're using our phones and we know that guests and a bride is around, I will say most of the communication that we are receiving is not when guests are around.
Right.
At the point that guests are in the picture, it's usually like
we're already going.
Yeah, we're photographing what's happening. It's more beforehand when it's like timeline ETA, how's everything going? This needs to be ready, that needs to be ready. Yeah. But we are definitely cognizant of like walking out of the room or going to a corner and glancing very quickly and being like, hey, can you go handle this instead of spending a lot of
Well, tact is everything. To look down and be like, Kate is saying that we need to be so-and-so in 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. So everyone knows what you're talking about too.
Yeah.
A lot of our girls are saying the Apple Watch walkie-talkie. There was a season where I would like do the little haptic touches during ceremonies, so my second shooter would look up and look at me. Apple Watches are great.
We also do a ton of behind the scenes videos now, as I'm sure. I mean, I don't know if you guys follow Kate and Co, but she has so much fun with her behind the scenes and her videos. And like, they're killing it. So we have our phone out a lot during the wedding day. And I think that because of the way we communicate and work and are attentive to our clients with this team specifically, they're aware that we're working.
It's true.
I have a whole person now that does all that social media because it got to be too much with me or my team trying to have our phones out. And it turned into a little bit of a thing. We would like pick and choose our weddings, and all of a sudden we get brides like, why isn't my wedding behind the scenes? Yeah. So now it's like a whole, but I notoriously, you will see this when you're here in June, Charlotte, I never have my phone. I lose it. I lose my timeline. And so I'm attracted to like having an earpiece, but I don't love the look of it. So I was just curious because now it's the hot debate in the planner world right now.
Yeah. We also, depending on the caliber of the event, have to bring a behind the scenes person whose entire job is to get video footage behind the scenes because I don't have time. But it's needed. We were actually just talking recently about like 10 years ago, a photographer's job was to show up and photograph what was happening. Now our job is to like build out a timeline and a schedule and come early and do flat lays and get candids and be able to pose and do family portraits that are Vogue style and be able to get behind the scenes and create videos and edit sneak peeks. And so, you know, when
they don't want to pay you anymore. So
I was going to say, and so if you ever wonder how to explain why you should be paid more, the caliber of work and things that you're having to do is greatly elevated.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, you know, you sparked my train of thought on something as well. I'd shoot all of my details the day before if my photographer will. And I am always happy to pay them for their time because I know it is so valuable. But when a photographer just does it as part of like the package, I do greatly appreciate that because again, it's just something that we both look good having that, and then you can focus on the morning of, and we don't have to like be styling in a corner and worrying about weird lighting and ugly carpet and whatever. So,
and most important, we're not starting the day out with a sore back.
Yeah, it's true. Nothing hurts a lower back like flat.
We've been able to rest first because that's my least favorite. I'll be like, man, I was bent over for 2 hours.
Slow. Like, I'm sure you guys are but I'm slow. Like, I like to shoot it and look at it and like walk away or I hold my phone over it and I'm like, oh, that's like weird. I don't know. I'm just slow and I don't want to be thinking like we only have 10 hours. So I need to worry about, I just took 45 minutes of it, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I have 10 hours to perfect this flat lay for her.
Oh God, no. I want to like get in and out in an hour, but sometimes I do need the opportunity to like walk away from it. But that's just what makes us different too. Like a lot of times we'll shoot those details at the couple's house so we can have the rings and we have the dress and we have those things all the day before.
Yeah, that is always the goal. Any chance we get to do the day before, we are a fan.
It's true.
Yeah.
In this ballpark for sure.
Well, this was such a treat.
Yes.
This was amazing. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for joining us and being so incredibly candid. I guarantee that they were like, I am obsessed with her.
If you ever want to come back, you're welcome here.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to come back for sure. And then I want to introduce you to the planners that'll be in my group. So we'll just, you know, we'll just all get together. Awesome. Well, thank you to all of your students for having me. And you guys are all wonderful. The questions were great. And I hope to connect with you all a little bit further on social media.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, have a good day of Zooms.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye, Kate. Oh, well, I just love her.
I know. She's wonderful.
What a pumpkin.
She's wonderful.
Hey, photographers. Feeling overwhelmed doing it all on your own? That's why we created In the Glow, an exclusive community where you can thrive together. Join us to build meaningful relationships in a safe, fun, and honest environment. Access top-of-the-line education every week, share your dreams, wins, and setbacks with supportive peers, and track your goals with mentors eager to see you succeed. Doors to In the Glow open again at the end of August. Head to developacademy.com and search In the Glow to join the waitlist now. Don't miss this chance to be a part of this transformative community.